She wants it. Okay, I've been a pretty crappy person at times. I'll start with that. Been married 4 years and together 8. We are both 31. She started hiding her phone for the past year, so I drank more. A lot. It came to a crash one night when she came home late and we got into it and I grabbed her phone and it got slightly physical. No okay, but no punches or physical injury. Went to jail January 12th. Got out and we decided to make it work. By February I caught her talking to what she called the guy of her dreams from high school. Confronted her and she said it's been going on half our marriage and she would end it. They apparently met up once at his house. She admitted she hoped he would come into her, but he never did. They just hugged. Over the next month I believe they were talking on Snapchat. I called him up and he said there was nothing going on and I thought we understood he would stay away. He Snapchatted her the next day and she was pissed. We got over it and we're better than ever. Really couldn't be better. Perfect. Then I noticed he was still on the friends list, so I asked her to delete him. She got pissed again. Said that was her only friend when I wasn't being a good husband, but she hasn't talked to him. A week after a Snapchat was sent to him. After the unfriending, I figured out Snapchat and realized she would have to add him to talk to him. She claims she accidentally mass messaged people and he was in it. I read everyone extremely well. Not sure why she can lie and I can't tell. Anyway, we have a 9 and a 1-year-old. My family despises divorce. I know it's going to mess the kids up if this goes down. I recommended an open marriage and she said no way and we are great. She doesn't know I know she lied about the Snapchat thing 2 weeks ago and I've kept it to myself, seeing if she'd come clean. That haven't seemed to talk since. Maybe it was just a message saying my hubby isn't cool with this, so let's take a break. I don't know. She knows by now the guy is junk and they can't be together because he doesn't like kids, and turns out he's a mess too. I know it's hard to let friends go, but since I've sobered up, I feel like catering to her. Here's my next move as of now. I get home on Monday and will confront her about the lie. Give her the option to send the text telling him to piss off for good, or we start divorce proceedings. She's stubborn and hates being told what to do, so she will probably go with the divorce thing and move back out thinking I will crack, which I usually do. But I'm going into this fully determined to pull the trigger if necessary. I may not have been the best husband in years past, so I'm stuck knowing I'm part of the reason my kids' lives are getting jacked up. Anywho, any thoughts, questions? Like I said, it's been about perfect the last 2 months with a few hiccups. But when I said be completely honest, I really meant I can't take any more lies. I figured there was probably a 80% plus chance they had slept together numerous times. Even the acceptance with this isn't that bad. It would be so much easier if she admitted to it and stopped lying about stuff. It's betrayal that hurts the most, not as much the screwing part. Once a cheater, always a cheater, or do people change? Obviously, I'd be a fool not to cut and run, but it'll really jack up the kids' lives. The 1-year-old is mine, luckily. Apparently, she planned on leaving before she was pregnant, and that changed everything. She's finally gotten a job. Hasn't had one in over 2 years. Said she was going to save and leave me, but it would take time. Now wants to be together now more than ever. Probably because old dude said no chance of relationship here. Just curious. She always has accused me constantly of cheating. Maybe to make herself feel better. Seems if I cheated, I'd let her do what she wants. Humans are weird. Found out she was still messaging another dude. Packed her crap. She gone. Weird. I feel relief. I guess the sadness already happened or will happen later. Anyway, time to plan a motorcycle trip. It was kind of physical. I grabbed her phone. She came after me. I pushed her down when she ripped my shirt off. They take me because they couldn't. A warrant for traffic 10 years ago. I found out from Snapchat. Evil application. She said I'm deleting him. He showed up the day after on it, but not as a friend. I studied everything I could about it. She was sending messages and keeping only received messages from friends on. When alone she'd turn it off, then his messages would come in. Only problem is, since I confronted him, it does seem like he did piss off. She just kept chasing him. Anyhow, I confronted her telling her I knew she talked to him. She denied Snapchat but admitted to Facebook messages. She's never been a smart person. I mean, high school alt school about defeated her. But to be caught red-handed and deny it then admit to something else is retarded. Today's day one of shedding her off. Going to talk to the lawyer today. Wish there was a way to do this immediately. Where she goes, her cousin's house, and yes, she agreed I get them half the time, but she's a pathological liar, so we will see. Like comment, I am not used to AOP so decisive, one of the fastest separation I have seen in a while. Story 2. Recently was told by my wife that she is done and wants out. We have been married for 23 years. She had been divorced with a son and together we had a daughter. Both children have left the house to start their lives. She left last week and moved into a girlfriend's apartment. We met this evening to talk. I told her I still loved her and wanted to do counseling. She reluctantly agreed but said she had no illusions it would help. I told her that I didn't want to talk about our issues tonight because I didn't think we could ever untangle the knot of resentment, hurt, anger, and defensiveness that seems to have consumed our relationship. Although I did not want to talk about our issues, she apparently did. She told me how for the past 3 years she had dedicated herself to make me happy. She said she tried everything to get me interested but never received any attention. My side of the story is that she was always busy, not feeling well, tired, or otherwise unavailable. It was like we had been living on different planets for the last 3 years. I don't know what to think. I firmly believe that there isn't anyone else. She worked part-time when we first married. When our daughter was born, she was a stay-at-home mom. I was proud to be able to support her in that effort. When my daughter began school, she worked part-time at the school as a secretary. Later, she managed a Curves for about 2 years. Then she went to work for a nonprofit as a fundraiser for about 5 years. For the past 3 years, she has been with a different nonprofit. Both of her jobs with nonprofits were salaried positions where they expected her to work 50 minutes 60 hours a week. For the most part, I always felt that her jobs cost us money. Only her most recent job paid her enough that I no longer felt like I was supporting her. Her income was her income. She bought some groceries and picked up some odds and ends, but I paid all the bills throughout our marriage, which is another reason for me to feel resentful. I have not been able to sleep. My mind is reeling. After my bankruptcy, I have been very concerned about our finances. I was able to do a HARP fee on our house and have avoided credit cards altogether. We lucked out and received a $10,000 oil lease bonus on our property. I was able to add over $5,000 to that. The house needed a new roof, so we spent $12,000 to put a roof on the house and garage. I was able to rebuild our savings, but then she wanted to take our daughter to Orlando for her graduation present, and that nearly wiped the account out. In the meantime, I was paying about $1,000 a month for my daughter's tuition. Throughout our marriage, it seemed that the money was gone as fast or faster as I could make it. We were finally in a position to start moving forward. But then she started to talk about going to Hawaii for our 25th anniversary next year, and my daughter got engaged and she was talking about spending $20,000 on that. So even now, it seemed into the foreseeable future money was going to continue to be a worry for me. I am just venting, but it just adds to my angst. Still no sleep. I have spent the night wandering around our house, alternating between rage and self-pity. I see all the hopes and dreams in the pictures all over the house. I see all the unfinished business and the things still left to do. I see the things that she took and the things that she left. I am so confused. Every time I closed my eyes, I was haunted by something she said, or something she did, or some incident she referenced. I couldn't have been that oblivious then or that oblivious now. I am just floored. I was frustrated because she never seemed to be around, but according to her, she had tried everything to make me happy, and I was too miserable to see it, and she was through. She left and moved in with her friend Tina, who conveniently enough had just left her husband. After a few days, I approached my wife asking to talk. We met at a Fridays by my choice because I did not want to argue. I told her that I was willing to do whatever it takes to fix our marriage, but that in light of what happened, it was apparent that the problem was not all on one side. At first, she said she didn't think it would help, but then reluctantly agreed to go. She even offered to reach out to a counselor. I said I would do it, and we scheduled an appointment for this coming Wednesday. While we talked, she told me of her immediate plans. Apparently, Tina's apartment is a small studio and there is not enough room for 2 people. So, they were going to move to the city and get an apartment. She told me that if we were able to work this out, at the very least we would need to take a year-long hiatus because she would have to sign a year's lease and wouldn't want to leave Tina hanging. In the meantime, I am living in our house, which was a central issue in our relationship, according to her. We live in a rather remote location and she has to drive an hour to get to work every day. She wanted to move and we had argued about it several times, but were never able to get past our own emotion, so the matter was unresolved. I wasn't opposed to the idea of moving but wanted to make a plan. We would have to list the house and it isn't in showroom condition. I also objected to where she wanted to move to, as our daughter would still live hours away and will be getting married soon. I suggested we plan a move closer to her. My wife wanted to move sooner but closer to work and said we could always move later. Another issue is that I work from home. My income pays all of the bills, and for me to move would require a huge loss in income, to the point of not being able to pay bills. Her salary isn't enough for us to live on. In some of our back and forth, via text, this issue has been brought up again. But she only heard that I said no. She didn't ever hear anything else. I told her this was a great example of the types of issues we could benefit from talking to a counselor about, and left it at that. So, I am living in the house and trying to work. I have a home office, and completely unable to function. Everywhere I look, everywhere I turn, I see her. I decided that I could not live in the house by myself. I would not live there through the holidays with all the memories and ghosts. I can't work here for the same reasons I can't live here. So, I made some decisions. I know that some of the best advice is to not make a decision on the basis of emotion. I know that my decisions were a reaction, but I do not think they were emotional. Rather, I think they are the most logical solution to the situation. I approached one of my largest customers about employment possibilities on Tuesday. By Friday morning, I had a contingent job offer, making more money than I had been. I have to pass a drug screen and background check, which shouldn't be a problem. As a bonus, the job is somewhat flexible. I could work remotely or I could work in the main office, which ideally enough is located near my daughter. I also approached my neighbor about buying our place. They were very interested and came over to look the place over. They reiterated that they were still very interested. We talked money and so far, there doesn't seem to be any issue. We left it that we both needed to talk to our partners. My wife was scheduled to stop by to pick up a few things later that day and we discussed it. The bottom line was that I couldn't live here without her and she didn't want to live there at all. I also told her about the job offer and she told me congratulations. I reiterated my commitment to go to counseling and do whatever needs to be done to fix our marriage, and I asked that she delay her move for 1 month to see if things could be worked out. She told me that Tina's apartment was just too small and they needed a bigger place. She said that if our marriage was going to be fixed it wouldn't happen in 2 months and that if I was serious, I would need to prove it to her. If after 6 months it looked like things could work out, she would break her lease. She said her and Tina had discussed that very issue. So, we left that we would see each other on Wednesday at counseling. Then today I had an interesting visitor. Tina's soon-to-be ex showed up at my house. He basically told me that Tina had told their son that this whole thing had been planned. Tina told him several days before my wife left that they were going to get an apartment in the city. She said that my wife knew what buttons to push to provoke an argument and that when that happened, she would have the excuse to take off. Prior to all this, my wife had kept me apprised of Tina's situation. She told me that at some point Tina had danced with a guy at a bar one night when they were on a girls' weekend. The guy had called her. When her daughter found out, she was very upset and called Tina a B. Well, her ex shed some light on that story. It seems Tina was posting on an online dating site and had forgotten to close her computer. Her daughter saw the profile looking for fun, which is why she is calling her mother a B. He also told me that almost all of the other stuff is pure bull and that we were both being lied to. I know I wouldn't be the first guy and I certainly won't be the last guy, but I absolutely cannot believe that my wife would behave like that or just outright lie, not just to me but to our children. My mind and my heart are telling me she just couldn't do this to our family. Knowing everything I do about my wife, I just can't see how she could do this. She savaged her own sister about this very thing, to the point that they weren't on speaking terms for several years. My first reaction is to confront her with this. Tina's ex even emailed me a link to her profile page. I talked to some friends who said I should wait for the counseling session and see what story she tells there, and if she is lies, confront her with the facts and see what the fallout is. I don't know what to do. I don't know if my wife is being played by Tina or if I am getting played by both. I work in real estate and most of my clients require that I be local to the jobs they send me. If I should move to the city, I would easily lose half or more of my income. My income that to this point has paid all of the bills for the past 23 years. I can't just up and move. I suggested we plan for it, but all she heard was no. At this point, I don't know if I should even be thinking about this as an issue, other than that I cannot live in this house or this small town without her. There are just too many memories for me to stay here. She turned 50 this year. Almost everyone I have talked to, including our son, the doctor says this all sounds like a prototypical midlife crisis. Regardless of what happens on Wednesday, one positive thing will be establishing boundaries. I have no intention of continuing to support her lifestyle. I don't imagine that she has considered the added costs of paying her own car insurance and cell phone bill or not being able to have me fix her car for free for her anymore. She won't be able to call me up because she is close on her account, and can I please make a deposit? I hear what you all are saying and believe me, I will protect myself. But in the meantime, I guess I still have hopes that it isn't true and her unhappiness if due to miscommunication and mixed messages. Weeks later, today I am moving all of the big things to my new apartment. The smaller stuff I will be moving over the next several days. I will be making several more trips as we sort through the accumulated debris of a 25-year relationship over the coming months. Anyway, I am moving to another town, where I have never lived. My daughter will be close enough to see often, and my new job will afford me opportunities to meet new people and form new friendships. One of the things I have the most anxiety about is loneliness. So, I am looking for suggestions from others who may have gone through this. What are things they did to avoid the black hole of loneliness? I know to a degree I need the time to reflect. But in the past, I have allowed my introspection to consume me to the point of depression and do not want to allow that to happen. Although we have not yet filed, the end of my marriage is a foregone conclusion. We are to close on the sale of our house next Monday. From the closing, we are walking down the hall to the other attorney's office to sign the dissolution papers. My wife is not interested in reconciliation. I cannot change her mind. I can control what she wants. All I can do is accept and move on. It has been a month since she left. To this point, I have ridden a roller coaster of emotion. It is time to get off and get on with my life. In the past month, I have sold my house, taken a new job, and last week moved to a new city. This past weekend, I spent setting up house in my new place. Today, I start my new job. So, today is truly the first day of the rest of my life. I see a lot of bitterness and anger in many of these threads, and I truly and completely understand. I have come to conclude that while necessary, those emotions are counterproductive and often self-defeating. I am going to try to rid myself of them by focusing on the here and now and making my life the best it can be. I don't know what the future holds, but I intend to grab the helm and steer the ship of my life from this point forward. Today was my first day at my new job. I spent the morning onboarding and then reported to my workplace. The onboarding place was top-notch. A lot of it dealt with corporate mission. I know much of it was propaganda, but the facilitators went into some details about it. I took a lot away from it because it really applies to life in general, things like accountability and communications. We talked a lot about a 1-to-1 ratio between saying something and doing something. It dredged up a lot of mistaken signs and missed opportunities for my relationship with my life, especially when we discussed 4 key elements of any relationship: welcoming, learning, knowing, and growing. When I reported to my workplace, I was a little disappointed. The place seems drab and worn out. Over the past few months, they have been promoting remote work arrangements with only 1 or 2 days a week in office. After 90 days, I can opt into a remote work arrangement and may actually do so in order to have that much more time for myself. Out of the 20 people in my department, 12 or 13 currently work remotely, so there won't be as many as I had hoped working with me. I have been able to make my apartment livable for the time being. I got a deal on a couch from a buddy and he is going to deliver it tomorrow. Another benefit for my move is that I am now much closer to my sisters. So, on set I am going to see one of them and shop around to buy a few things while I am there. I can't get internet or cable until Saturday morning, so I am keeping busy with finishing up apartment things, hanging curtain, placing furniture, finding places for the stuff that I brought. The day was pretty smooth mentally as I was able to keep my mind off my marital difficulties. I signed up for my benefits today and will have coverage starting on the 1st, so I will soon be off my wife's plan, further severing my ties to her. I still had moments of overwhelming emotions where I had to find a quiet place to collect myself. Tomorrow and Wednesday my son will be in town, so I will be going out to dinner with him, my daughter and her fiancé. Thursday there is a spinning class in the community fitness center that I may sign up for. As soon as I get settled and starting a workout routine is my next priority. I am also going to look into a racquetball league for the fall and winter. I am going to remake myself into a better me. Second day on the job, more onboarding and a little work. My couch was delivered today, so my apartment is a little more livable. A couple of friends from back at the old place delivered it, so I got to visit with them for a while. Later I got to meet both of my kids for dinner. My son is almost back home from Chicago and I will be having dinner with both of them tomorrow. I kind of feel a sense of vindication because my STXW won't be seeing either of them for a while. I know, I shouldn't think that way, but I still do. Last night I sort of took a step backwards. My STBXW texted me to see how my first day went. I asked her to call me instead because I hate texting and think it is so impersonal. She called and we discussed how the day went. She told me how nice it was for her because she only took 5 minutes to get to work, then to the gym and to get a haircut. I told her I was happy for her but that I wasn't really, because I really don't want her to be happy without me. She got upset and said she had just called to ask about my day and we ended the conversation. This morning I had to email her some insurance papers and I apologized for upsetting her. She claimed she wasn't upset and we exchanged several more emails. She said she disagreed that emails and texts were impersonal because they showed she was thinking about me. Anyway, the rest of the day went fine. Tomorrow is the next first day of the rest of my life. I can only try to make it better than today. This evening she was a little miffed as she thought I had blocked her from texting me. So, she called me to say she had tried to text me but it wouldn't go through. She happened to call me while I was at dinner with our kids. She seemed disturbed about that and said she would let me go to enjoy the rest of my dinner. I asked my daughter's fiancé to look at my phone to see what the issue was with the texting. He fixed whatever it was and so I texted her that Aaron had fixed it. She said it was great that we could rely on our children to fix our technology, to which I replied, really. End of discussion. Day 3 of work involved a staff meeting which really reinforced my decision to take the job. Some big changes are coming which would have made my old job infinitely more difficult. I also did some actual work today, so that felt good. Tomorrow is my first day without family around and I still have some unpacking and arranging to do around my apartment. Hopefully by Saturday the place will be totally livable. Next week's plans include working out. My son bought me a new racquetball racket, so finding a league is also on the agenda, as is the euchre league my apartment complex runs. Tomorrow is the next first day of the rest of life. I am tired and need some rest to make it the best one yet. Up and at it by 6 a.m. Took the dog for a walk to do his business. So far, every day I have taken a different route to explore the neighborhood. I finally found the potty park. After work, a trip to Lowe's to buy the overhead lights I need and then more unpacking and rearranging. Hopefully I will have more to do at work today as I migrate into work activity away from onboarding stuff. Up at 6 a.m. again. Dog has been walked and getting ready for work. Did some real work yesterday, but I have learned so much in the past few days that I barely remember most of it. I am sure it will all sink and become second nature. Spent most of the evening talking to my sister on the phone. As I listened to myself talking, I was realizing how abnormal the past normal really had become. I have noticed that more and more lately. Now I am trying to reconcile how I feel about that in my own mind. Made it to Lowe's last night. Got 2 ceiling fans to install. Those will be tonight's projects along with putting together my spare bedroom. Tomorrow, I will finally get my cable and internet installed. My daughter and her fiancé are coming over to help me set up the TV and computer. Then we'll have lunch. After that I am headed to city for dinner with 2 of my sisters and possibly a BBQ at my nephew's. This morning I woke up before the alarm and was lying there thinking about stuff. After a while I realized that I wasn't thinking of her or us, I was just thinking about stuff. It was a good realization. Yesterday was better than the day before and today will be better still. End of the work week, facing the weekend. While I have some things to do tonight and tomorrow, I can't seem to stop thinking of Monday. All day at work people kept saying that there were things I could take care of on Monday. I was constantly reminded of the fact that I won't be here on Monday. Instead, I will be selling my house and signing my dissolution papers. I almost broke down several times today thinking about it. I want to call my wife and beg her to reconsider filing the dissolution. I still can't grasp exactly why we can't give our separation time to see if we can work things out from afar before taking such a drastic step. I would bet not just my own but also my daughter's life that there really is no one else in her life. So, I truly do not feel an E or P is the issue. Someone mentioned to me in another thread that she is probably quite a few steps ahead of me mentally about walking away and probably has made up her mind to not step back. She says I need to heal. She says she is not promising me anything, but that maybe we can become friends again, and if we can become friends anything could happen. Dissolution means we are both free of any obligation to each other, so again, who knows? She may date and find out she had a really good thing with me. I may date and find out I had a really bad thing with her. Again, who knows? Logically and emotionally, I am completely split on the issue. Logically, if I am going to find out what makes me happy, I need to be completely free of every limitation but my own to explore the world. And the same goes for her. So, I understand that. But emotionally, I still love my wife and still want my family to become whole again. But emotionally and logically I know I can't make her love me. Again, the only thing I can do is take life one day at a time and see where it leads. I just hate this divide within my soul. Positives and negatives from last night. First, the negatives. When I got home, I started to install my fans. I opened the boxes and made sure I had all of the parts and tried to get started. The first thing I realized was that I didn't have screws to attach the bracket to the service box in the ceiling. I guess I could have run out and got them. But instead, I decided to go get dinner across the street. I sat down at the bar in order to draft when my phone rang. It was my sister and I couldn't hear her inside. So, I went to the patio and found a place at the outside bar. Now the positives, I sat down a couple of empty seats from a nice-looking lady who from all indications had just had a couple of beer and had just finished her dinner. She was alone, by herself. I talked to my sister for a few moments and told her I would call her later. As I was finishing up my call, the woman's check came and I noticed that she had to put on reading glasses to read the bill. So, after hanging up, I said, "You have the same problem as me. I need to use reading glasses now too." We ended up talking for about 10 minutes, just about things in general, the neighborhood, the local stores and restaurants, work. Mostly just chatted. I introduced myself and she introduced herself. We shook hands and talked some more. She finished her beer and said she was going to go. I told her it was nice meeting her and that was that. Sorry, but no tales of passion or anything like that. As she was leaving and I was finishing my beer, a guy walked in and somehow we started talking about sports. Later another guy sat down and we talked about music. I ended up spending about 2 hours and had 3 beers along with the dinner that I had intended to bring home to eat. No earth-shattering events, but it was nice to know that I can still talk to people I don't know. Another positive is that I was able to engage an attractive woman in conversation and she didn't run off screaming. I actually think I have a lot to offer in the attraction department. I am tall, have a thinner athletic build, thanks to losing over 20 pounds through all of this. Think basketball, not football. Most of my hair, although it is graying, all of my teeth. I am intelligent and witty and have a good sense of humor. Most of the mental items I am going to have to encourage to come out after what I have been through, and the same goes for the physical items as well. My plan for today is to stop at a bookstore and pick up a few books about self-improvement. Some of them have been mentioned on the forum, and then next week I start working out again. So, I went to furniture store. In the past week I have spent more money on myself than I have at any time in the rest of my life. I bought a small dining room table and chairs. I just got done putting them together. I had bought another cabinet for my entertainment center but got the wrong one. Looks like another trip is in my future. Oh well, another dinner with my sisters. Later today it is back to the house to sort through garage stuff and pick up some more clothes. I am not looking forward to this trip. On Monday we close on the sale and will then have 60 days to finish getting our stuff out. We, my wife and I, made a date to meet at the house next Sunday to start to sort through 25 years of accumulation. Another trip I am not looking forward to. After the closing we are supposed to cross the hall and sign our dissolution papers. As I said the other day, I am so conflicted over this. She insists we do it now. Emotionally I am not ready to let go. Logically I completely understand. The next couple of days are going to be probably the worst 2 days of my life so far. Part of me wants to ask her not to do this yet. I still haven't figured out how anyone can decide to just walk away from 25 years of shared memories, trials, tribulation, victories, and life in general in less than a month without making some effort to try to fix the issues. I know that I will never meet another person who will have shared the bulk of my life, and the same is true of her. I am still confused. I guess though that I just have to accept it and move on. But then again, part of me feels that that was a large part of my end of the problems in our marriage. I was too accepting and forgiving and not willing to stand up for me and my interests. Instead, I often pushed them aside to take care of my obligations. In the end, it finally caught up with me, and it really is devastating to think that ultimately that I have no other choice other than to accept it and move on when that was a primary issue in the first place. One day at a time. My comment, Part 2 will come today. Do you believe OP will grow out of this? Subscribe and let me grab a quick bite and publish Part 2 ASAP.